Greetings and välkommen. I'm Catherine of Sky, and I hope to make your day refreshingly Swedish. So today we're going to be talking about cultural differences in food. One of our favorite things, obviously, here. And some of these things are going to be really weird and shocking to you. And so, especially if you are American and have never seen these kinds of things before. So let's get into it. So one of the first things that I found really bizarre when I came to Scandinavia, and obviously now I live in Sweden, is that people love to eat things out of tubes. This is caviar out of a tube. By the way, you can buy caviar at every grocery store. You can buy brie in a tube, mayonnaise out of a tube. And I'm like, huh? One of the things when I lived in the US, there was a product called Go-Gurt, which is the idea of putting yogurt in a tube to make it more convenient. But for me, I always saw it as like, ew, that's like toothpaste. Yuck. I couldn't get over it, and I never tried it. It wasn't a product that I ever wanted to try because it's just like this. The association with toothpaste was just like, no. But one of the things, I asked Matthias about this, especially like mayonnaise and other things that we eat, like cheese. A lot of cheeses come in these as well. And I said, why do people have these tubes? Because you can get everything in a tube. Like you can get meats and cheese and caviar and all kinds of stuff in a tube. And he says, well, you know what? They keep it fresher. I said, well, okay. He's like, well, when you have a tube, and you kind of like smush it from the end, no air gets in the entrance. No air, because literally the product is just coming out of the tube, and so no air can get in there and start the spoiling process. And I'm like, that sounds actually very reasonable. That's kind of cool. So there are things that I eat out of tubes. I don't just like pour it down my throat or anything. But there's this wonderful green cheese that I love to eat with. Oh, you're going to find this really strange, but I'm going to do a video on this because it's really tasty. A gingerbread. We have this green cheese that we eat with gingerbread, and it's so good. But yeah, anyway, so that's the thing. Tubes are big in Scandinavia. And also, like I said, caviar and many different kinds of caviar are available in every grocery store. You do not have to go to a specialty store to get those, that's for sure. Another thing we do here in Scandinavia is we go grocery shopping every couple of days or every maybe 3 days. And I think that's because all of our grocery stores are quite convenient from where we are. Even if you live, well, pretty much anywhere, if you live in this city, there's like a convenience store just down the way. And those convenience stores, they have frozen food, they have all kinds of other stuff. They may not have fresh vegetables, but it's really easy to get food. Whereas in America, I used to go grocery shopping once every couple of weeks, especially to the warehouse store. I'd be like once every 3 weeks or something like that, because I just hated going to town. It was so inconvenient to get the car out and load all the groceries, the loading and unloading. Yeah, it was bad. Another thing that we do here is we pay for the bags, the plastic bags or paper bags that we use. We have to pay for those here, but it's kind of nice because it gives you an incentive to bring your own back next time, so you don't have to pay for them. I don't mind paying for them because I reuse them as trash bags in many cases, and I've got cats, so cat litter bags as well. And that's a nice way to reuse stuff. Whereas in America, you're given all of these what they call t-shirt bags, and they're so thin and terrible, you really can't even reuse them. You have to buy specialized reusable bags that are a little bit stiffer in order to have that reuse capability. But here, the bags are very thick plastic or paper bags. There's a lot of paper bags with handles on top and make it really easy to take your groceries home. The other thing about going to the grocery store every few days is you only buy very little bit at a time. So there's not this huge unloading and loading like I experienced with going to the grocery store once every couple of weeks. And you also end up eating fresher food because you don't need to freeze meat. Nothing gets frostbitten and thrown away. So that's really, really much better, I feel. And usually the grocery store is on your way home from work or wherever you happen to be going. So it's very, very convenient. So one thing I've noticed in Sweden is that we have very much smaller packs of things. So in America, your standard size of container is going to be a dozen eggs minimum. And then I would buy like 18 eggs, and they even have like bigger flats of eggs as well if you have a big family, or if you're making or baking or something like that. But in Sweden, I think you can buy egg cartons as small as 4 pieces of eggs. I guess if you don't eat a lot of eggs, I tend to eat eggs because it's a really good source of protein that's pretty cheap. But yeah, I was really shocked when I first saw that here. They have these 4 packs of eggs, and I'm like, what can you do with that? That's barely a meal, or 2 meals, I guess. I usually have 2 eggs, for a breakfast or something like that. But I was like, wow, this is a very different way of seeing things. They come in 4, 6s, and then a dozen. The same thing also applies to things like hamburger buns and hot dog buns. You can buy 4 hamburger buns at a time. And I'm like, okay, interesting. Normally in the US, you buy 8 or 16 at a time, depending on where you get them. Like at the warehouse store, they have obviously much bigger packs. But here, yeah, buying 4 hamburger buns is definitely a thing. But what I usually do is I buy what they have. Sometimes they don't have 8 packs. But if I do get an 8 pack, I'll just freeze them. And then if I start having, predictable hamburgers or something, like I know I'll have one every afternoon, I'll just put one in the fridge, let it thaw out overnight, and then just take a new one out when I use that one up and just have that one thaw as well. So one thing that I noticed here is that, when I came for visits, I kind of had this impression of like, gosh, they don't have a lot of variety of stuff. And to me, that was a negative. But since I've started living here in Sweden, you kind of get a very different perspective on things, where before I saw less variety, now I see more cooperation and working together. And let me explain what that means. So when you go and want popcorn, for example, in America, you will see 16 or 20 different kinds of popcorn, maybe, 8 different brands, and each brand has a couple of different kinds, maybe 3 or 4 different kinds. Depends, how you have movie butter, extra movie butter, extra movie butter, movie butter that's going to kill you in 5 seconds with a heart attack, that kind of thing. Or like maybe different flavors of microwave popcorn, that kind of thing. But here you have 2. You've got movie butter or just salt and butter. I don't really know if they're different. I need to try both kinds. But anyway, and the same thing with cereals. Like in America, you get a lot of copy and paste cereals. You have, say shredded mini wheats, for example. You have the name brand. Then you have the store brand. Then you have the sort of off-store brand. The second one that comes in a big plastic bag. You may even have a couple more different companies making exactly the same product. In Sweden and Scandinavia in general, we cut out all of that silliness, and we just have one kind of a certain kind of cereal. If you want Cheerios, you get Cheerios, or whatever. A lot of them are like store brand kind of versions, though I have seen some name brand cereals. But the point is that you don't need to have 10 different companies competing for exactly the same, cereal product. What is the point of that? I mean, people they're just working against each other instead of working together. And, when I say that, some people may say, well, there's competition and you got to have lower prices. But, when you look at the stores, the food here is even cheaper than in America. Like grocery shopping is actually cheaper in Sweden than in America. And I don't know what is the mechanism for keeping the food prices that low, but they are very affordable. And in America, I just see a land of waste. I mean, there's so many companies butting heads trying to get this market share for exactly the same product. It's made in the same factories, it's just branded differently. And that is just so unnecessary. And you see that and it's like, what are they doing? Are they crazy or something? So that's really given me a very different perspective on things, how things operate differently between Sweden and the US. But yeah, you don't need a million companies to have competition when it's actually not competition. If you notice, all of the prices are always the same in the US on those different cereal products. The store brands never go on sale, and the off-store brands also don't go on sale. Only the name brands go on sale when they want to get a little bit more market share, I guess. But everything else is very much fixed price, and they keep their prices pretty high. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this deep digging delve into the food differences between the United States and Sweden. There's more to come, of course, and I hope you have found something useful here, or at least funny or interesting or something. Do let me know what you think about this. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, do please give it a like. It really helps on YouTube for getting promoted and letting YouTube kind of like share the video with other people. And yeah, share it with your other people. Anybody you know, teddy bears, cats, dogs, pets, fish, anybody who's got a cell phone. I know there's a lot of people out there where their fish have cell phones. Definitely a thing. So anyway, thank you so very much for joining me. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you next time.
Arap profesyonelleri